All right, it is exactly 5 o'clock. So we'll start here with the Gospel. We're in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We're on Monday, April 12th, 1886, on the chapter called The Master and Buddha. And the actual page number is 952. And Ramakrishna has been talking about, with some of the householders in the room, talking about Vedanta and Advaita. And they just have been sitting around and talking about it. Ramakrishna had just finished making a statement that, an important statement. He said, a householder should not hold the view that everything is illusory, like a dream. You know, the Vedanta is a set of 4 different paths that lead to God. And one of those paths is the path of Jnana Yoga, and that is the one that talks about everything being illusory. It's still true that God and God alone is real, but for householders, we have to go to work, we have to raise families, take care of, business. And if you look at the world as illusory and become convinced of that, what about your children and your family that you're having to take care of? And so he recommends the bhakti, or the path of devotion, which does a similar thing in the sense that God alone is real, but we see that divine in each other. And we worship each other through, we worship God through service of God inside everything, actually. And so that draws us closer and allows us to be more true to our path if we've chosen a householder versus a monastic path to the divine. So it starts out, Sri Ramakrishna is seated with the devotees. A crazy woman has been troubling everybody in order to see the master. She had assumed toward him the attitude of a lover and often ran into the garden house and burst into the master's room. She had even been beaten by the devotees. I can't. Funny image, surprising image actually, that the devotees went and beat this woman because she kept coming around throwing herself in the arms of Ramakrishna, because her attitude, we can have those different attitudes toward the divine, and so she obviously saw the divine in him and thought, I'm going to take the role of lover, all right? And of course Ramakrishna sees everybody as God and sees every woman as mother. And so it's rather troubling to him to have a woman run and jump into his arms in an amorous kind of way. And so they're trying to keep her out. And Sashi says, Sashi, if she comes again, I shall shove her out of the place. The master tenderly answers, no, let her come and let her go away. Rakhal, at the beginning, I too used to feel jealous of others when they visited the master. But he graciously revealed to me that my guru is also the guru of the universe. Has he taken this birth only for a few of us? Sashi, I don't mean that. But why should she trouble him when he is ill, and she is such a nuisance? Rakhal, we all give him trouble. Did we all come to him after attaining perfection? Haven't we caused him suffering? How Narendra and some of the others behaving in the beginning, how they argued with him. Sashi, whatever Narendra expressed in words, he carried out in his actions. Rakhal, well, how rude Dr. Sarkar has been to him. No one is guiltless, if it comes to that. Master to Rakhal tenderly, will you eat something? Rakhal, not now, later on. Sri Ramakrishna asked M by a sign whether he was going to have his meal there. Rakhal to M, please take your meal here. He's asking you to. Sri Ramakrishna was seated completely naked. He looked like a 5-year-old boy. Just then, the crazy woman climbed the stairs and stood near the door. M, in a low voice to Sashi, ask her to salute him and to go away. Don't make any fuss. Sashi took her downstairs. It was the first day of the Bengali year. Many woman devotees arrived. They saluted Sri Ramakrishna and the Holy Mother. Among them were the wives of Balaram and Manamohan and the Brahmani of Bagbazar. Several of them had brought their children along. Some of the women offered flowers at the master's feet. 2 young girls, 9 or 10 years of age, sang a few songs. First they sang, we moan for rest, alas, but rest we can never find. We know not whence we come, nor where we float away. Time and again we tread this round of smiles and tears. In vain we pine to know whither our pathway leads and why we play this empty play. And then there comes Radha, and there you see your Krishna with arching eyes and the flute at his lips. And finally, O tongue, always repeat the name of Mother Durga. Who but your Mother Durga will save you in distress? Sri Ramakrishna said by a sign, "Ah, that's good. They're singing of the Divine Mother." The Brahmani of Bagbazar had the nature of a child. Sri Ramakrishna told Rakal by a sign to ask her to sing. The devotees smiled as the Brahmani sang, "O Hari, I shall sport with you today, for I have found you alone in the Nidhu wood." The women devotees went downstairs. It was afternoon. M and a few other devotees were seated near the master. Narendra came in and he looked at them, as the master used to say, like an unsheathed sword. Narendra sat down near the master within his hearing, expressed his utter annoyance with women. He told the devotees what an obstacle women were in the path of God realization. Sri Ramakrishna made no response. He listened to Narendra. Narendra said again, "I want peace. I do not even care for God." Sri Ramakrishna looked at him intently without uttering a word. Now and then Narendra chanted, "Brahman is truth, knowledge, the infinite." So anytime we get those direct statements there, I want to come to my sister's rescue for some reason. But, he's talking to a room full of men and young men. And so when they're talking about what obstacles women are, of course, in Holy's mother's room, there will be women sitting around in there talking about what monsters men are, or what obstacles men are in their lives. And so it's not being one-sided, it's just that we're viewing a one-sided scene and getting a one-sided perspective of what they're talking about there. It was 8 o'clock. Oh, wait. Ramakrishna looked at him intently without uttering a word. Now and then Narendra chanted, "Brahman is truth, knowledge, the infinite." It was 8 o'clock in the evening, and Sri Ramakrishna sat on his bed. A few devotees sat on the floor in front of him. Surendra arrived from his office. He carried in his hands 4 oranges and 2 garlands of flowers. Now he looked at the master and now at the devotees. He unburdened his heart to Sri Ramakrishna. Surendra, looking at M and the others, "I have come after finishing my office work. I thought, what is the good of standing on 2 boats at the same time? So I finished my duties first and then I came here. Today is the first day of the year. It is also Tuesday, an auspicious day to worship the Divine Mother. But I didn't go to Kaligat. I said to myself, it will be enough if I see him who is Kali herself and who has rightly understood Kali." Ramakrishna smiled. Surendra, "It is said that a man should bring fruit and flowers when visiting his guru or a holy man. So I have brought these." To the master, "I'm spending all this money for you." God alone knows my heart. Some people feel grieved to give away a penny, and there are people who spend 1,000 rupees without feeling any hesitation. God sees the inner love of a devotee and accepts his offering. Sri Ramakrishna said to Surendra by a nod that he was right. Surendra, "I couldn't come here yesterday. It was the last day of the year, but I decorated your picture with flowers." Sri Ramakrishna said to M by a sign, "Ah, what devotion." Surendra, "As I was coming here, I brought these 2 garlands for 4 annas." Almost all the devotees took their leave, and the master asked M to stroke his legs and to fan him. The moon was shining brilliantly, flooding the garden paths, the trees, and the water of the lake with the white rays. Girish and M and Latu and a few other devotees were seated on the steps leading to the lake. In case you're getting confused, this is not at Dakshineshwar. Remember, now we're at Kasipur, at the garden house, which is more of a country area, more open land, cleaner air. And Ramakrishna is in the Kasipur garden house, and he's in an upstairs bedroom, and he's on his deathbed at this point. And so all of this is happening at that point in there. And so the lake is actually out. It's just a small tank, probably pond is more of a better word for it, just out in front of the Kasipur garden house. Girish, M, and Latu and a few other devotees were seated on the steps leading to the lake. The house stood to the west of the lake. A lamp burned in the master's room on the second floor, and Sri Ramakrishna was sitting on his bed. There were several devotees in the room. A few minutes later, Girish and M were strolling along a garden path lined with flowering plants and fruit trees. M, how beautiful this moonlight is. Perhaps nature has had the same laws from time out of mind. Girish, how do you know that? M, there is no change in the uniformity of nature. European scientists have been discovering new stars through the telescope. There are mountains on the moon. They have seen them. Girish, it is difficult to be sure of that. It's hard for me to believe it. M, why? The mountains have been observed through the telescope. Girish, how can you be sure that they have been rightly observed? Suppose there are other things between the moon and the earth. Light passing through them may conjure up such visions. Narendra and Rakal, Naranjan, Sharat, Sashi, Baburam, Kali, Yogin, Latu, and a few other young devotees had been living at the Kasipur garden house in order to nurse Sri Ramakrishna. That evening, Narendra, Kali, and Tarak had gone to Dakshineshwar. They were going to spend the night in the Panchavati, meditating on God. Girish and Latu and M went to Sri Ramakrishna's room and found him sitting on the bed. Sashi and one or two devotees had been tending the master. Baburam, Niranjan, and Rakal also entered the room. It was a large room. Some medicines and a few other accessories were kept near the bed. One entered this room by a door at the north end. Since Sri Ramakrishna had to be tended all night, the devotees stayed awake by turns. The devotee who tended him fixed Sri Ramakrishna's mosquito net and then either lay on the mat on the floor or spent the night sitting up. Since Sri Ramakrishna got very little sleep on account of his illness, his attendant too slept very little. That evening Sri Ramakrishna was somewhat better. The devotees saluted the master and sat down on the floor. The master asked M to bring the lamp near him. He greeted Girish cordially. Master to Girish, are you quite well? To Latu, prepare a smoke for him and give him a betel leaf. A few minutes afterwards, he asked Latu to give Girish some refreshments. Latu said that they had been sent for. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting up. A devotee offered him some garlands of flowers. Sri Ramakrishna put them around his neck one by one. Was he thus worshipping God who dwelt in his heart? The devotees looked at him wonderingly. He took those two garlands from his neck and gave them to Girish. Every now and then, Sri Ramakrishna asked whether the refreshments had been brought. M was fanning the master. On the bed was a sandalwood fan, the offering of a devotee. The master gave it to M, who continued to fan him with it. He also gave M 2 garlands. M had lost a son aged 7 or 8 about a year and a half before. The child had seen the master many a time. Latu was telling Sri Ramakrishna about M. Latu, M wept bitterly last night at the sight of the books that had belonged to his dead child. His wife is almost mad with grief. She sometimes treats her other children violently. She creates a scene at home because he spends the night here now and then. Sri Ramakrishna seemed worried to hear this. Girish, it is nothing to be wondered at. Even after receiving the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna fainted from the grief at the death of his son Abhimanyu. Girish was given the refreshments on a tray. Sri Ramakrishna took a grain, and Girish accepted the rest as prasad. He sat in front of the master and began to eat. He needed water to drink. There was an earthen jug in the southeast corner of the room. It was the month of April, and the day was hot. Sri Ramakrishna said, "There's some nice water here." The master was so ill that he had not enough strength even to stand up. You know, that's something really amazing as you read this whole account. Ramakrishna is dying. I mean, it's so much, he's so weak that he can't even sit up, and yet he's sitting there with a room full of devotees, making sure that Girish gets his sweets and passing out the flowers to the devotees and having conversations with them and teaching them. It's just, again, you see that in these great souls. They live for others. There's just no selfishness about them at all. It's such a beautifully inspirational thing that even in the stand on death's doorstep and just still be about everybody else, And the humility too, accepting all of that service. 8 people staying in the room with you to take care of your needs and watch over you like that. The master was so ill that he did not have enough strength even to stand up. And what did the disciples see to their utter amazement? They saw him leave the bed, completely naked, and move toward the jug. He himself was going to pour the water into a tumbler. The devotees were almost frozen with fear. The master poured the water into a glass. He poured a drop or two into his hand to see whether it was cool. He found that it was not very cool, but since nothing better could be found, he reluctantly gave it to Girish. Girish was eating the sweets, the devotees were sitting about, and M was fanning Sri Ramakrishna. Girish to the master, Debun Babu has decided to renounce the world. On account of his illness, Sri Ramakrishna could hardly talk. Touching his lips with his finger, he asked Girish by signs, "Who will feed his wife and children?" Girish, "I don't know." The other devotees remained silent. Girish began talking again while he ate the refreshments. Girish, "Sir, which is wiser, to renounce the world regretfully or to call on God leading a householder's life?" Master to M. "Haven't you read the Gita? One truly realizes God if one performs one's worldly duties in a detached spirit, if one lives in the world after realizing that everything is illusory. Those who regretfully renounce the world belong to an inferior class. Do you know what a householder Gyani is like? He's like a person living in a glass house. He can see both inside and outside." Again, there was silence in the room. The master to M. "The refreshments are hot and good." M to Girish. "Yes, they were brought from Fagu's shop. The place is famous." Master smiling. "Yes, famous." Girish, "They really are nice." To the master, "Sir, my mind is now in a very lofty plane. Why does it come down again?" Master, "That always happens when one leads a worldly life. Sometimes the householder's mind goes up and sometimes it goes down. Sometimes he feels a great deal of devotion and sometimes he feels less. This happens because he lives in the midst of lust and greed. Sometimes a householder contemplates God or chants his name, and sometimes he diverts his mind to lust and greed. He is like an ordinary fly, which now sits on a sweetmeat and now sits on filth or a rotting sore. But it is quite different with sannyasis. They are able to fix their mind on God alone, completely withdrawing them from lust and greed. They can enjoy the bliss of God alone. A man of true renunciation cannot enjoy anything but God. He leaves any place where people talk of worldly things. He listens only to spiritual talk. A man of true renunciation never speaks about anything but God. The bees light only on flowers in order to sip honey. They do not enjoy anything else. Girish went to the small terrace to rinse his hands. The master to M. A man needs the grace of God to fix his whole mind on him. Well, Girish has eaten a great many sweets. Tell him not to eat anything else tonight. Girish returned to the room and sat in front of the master. He was chewing a betel leaf. The master to Girish. Rakal has now understood what is good and what is bad, what is real and what is unreal. He lives with his family, no doubt, but he knows what it means. He has a wife, and a son has been born to him. But he has realized that all these are illusory and impermanent. Rakal will never be attached to the world. He's like a mudfish. The fish lives in the mud, but there is not the slightest trace of mud on its body. Girish, sir, I don't understand all of this. You can make everyone pure and unattached if you want to. You can make everyone good, whether he's a worldly man or a sannyasi. The Malaya breeze, I believe, you said, turns all trees into sandalwood. Master, not unless there is substance in them. There are a few trees, like the cotton tree, for instance, which are not turned into the sandalwood. Girish, I don't care. Master, but this is the law. Girish, but everything about you is illegal. That's my favorite, my favorite part of the gospel these days. Those few little lines right there. Everything about Ramakrishna being illegal, which is to say you cannot limit the divine. You can't say it's this way and this way only, or God's going to do this. It's that story of when Ramakrishna was talking about this with one of, I don't remember who he was talking with, and the man's example was, you can't find a bush with both a red rose and a white rose growing on the same bush. And the master the very next day was out picking flowers for the shrine, and he came to a to a bush, a rose bush, and there was a white rose and there was a red rose growing right there next to each other on the same bush. And so this is why he has this reputation, just such an expansive mind, just no limitations, just free as can be. Incidentally, and not right around that area, I'm not saying it's part of a miracle or anything, but it was a cool thing. I went out into the garden in San Francisco where I did the worship in the mornings, and on our camellia bush, there was a flower that right down the middle, the left side was white and the right side was red. The other ones on the bush were red with white spots on them, and this one had just literally right smack down the middle, half this and half that. And it reminded me of this too, and I thought, yeah, this is the world. You never know what's coming. Everything about you is illegal. The devotees were listening to this conversation in great amazement. Every now and then, the fan in M's hand stopped moving. The master, now listen to this is cool. This is right after Girish says, everything about you is illegal. Master, yes, that may be true. When the river of love overflows, the land all around is flooded with water to the depth of a pole, right? Meaning that at that time you could take a boat and go catty corner across all of the rice paddies. You don't have to walk on the berms, to keep dry. And so he's saying, yeah, you're right. There is a way of thinking about it to where everybody is perfected and everybody is brought home. When we have a flood tide of love that floods to the depth of a pole. He says, when a man is inebriated with divine love, he doesn't abide by the injunctions of the Vedas. He doesn't obey the rules. He's beyond them. He picks durva glass for the worship of the deity, but he doesn't clean it. He picks whatever his hands lay on. While gathering tulsi leaves, he even breaks the branches. What a state of mind I passed through. To M. When one develops love of God, one needs nothing else. M. Yes, sir. Master. But a devotee must assume toward God a particular attitude. God in his incarnation as Rama demonstrated Santa, Dasya, Vatsalya, and Shakya. But Krishna demonstrated Madhur besides all of these. Radha cherished the attitude of Madhur toward Krishna. Her love was romantic, but in the case of Sita, it was pure love of a chaste wife for her husband. There was no romance in her love. But all this is the Leela of God. He demonstrates different ideals to suit different times. And so he's really just talking about I think it's the 5 different relationships that one can have with the divine. You can serve God as father, you can serve God as brother or sister, you can serve him as a child, you can serve him as a lover, or serve him as a friend. And so you can have any of those, that choice of relationships with the divine in order to build this kind of love. And all of it is based on faith and grace. As you sit and chant your mantra and contemplate the divine grace, he says that allows the householder's mind, not just householders, everybody's mind, to rest safely on the beloved. because it's that inspiration as your mind expands in its understanding of a love that has no conditions. And as you become less and less afraid to trust a love that has no conditions, you become less and less afraid of approaching the divine, and you feel more and more comfortable in the presence. And in that comfort and in that safety and in that growing love, the boundaries of your egoistic world get violated, and the beloved begins to move inside. Your idea of God grows in the heart rather than external to yourself. And it's all through grace, all through this divine love that God has for us. And really in that it is the nature of the universe. So even if you don't have a faith in God as a being, there is still the universe whose nature is Satchit Ananda, and that this universe is built on the ideal of a perfect love and a perfect wisdom through presence, through being. So when one develops this love of God, one needs nothing else. But a devotee must assume toward God a particular attitude, right? A crazy woman used to accompany Vijay Goswami to the Kali temple at Dakshineshwar and sing for Ramakrishna. Her songs were about Kali. She also used to sing the songs of the Brahmo Samaj. The devotees called her Pagli, which means crazy woman, and tried to keep her away from the master to Girish and the others. Pagli cherishes the attitude of Madhur toward me, right? That's the lover. One day she came to Dakshineshwar. Suddenly she burst out crying. "Why are you crying?" I asked her. And she said, "Oh, my head is aching." Everyone laughs. Another day I was eating when she came to Dakshineshwar. She suddenly said, "Won't you be kind to me?" I had no idea of what was passing through her mind and went on eating. Then she said, "Why did you push me away mentally?" I asked her, "Well, what is your attitude?" She said, "Lover." "Ah," I said, "but I look on all women as manifestations of the Divine Mother. All women are mothers to me." Thereupon she said, "I don't know all of that." Then I called Ramlal and said to him, "Ramlal, listen to her. What is she talking about, this pushing away mentally? Even now she keeps up that attitude." Girish, blessed indeed is Pagli. Maybe she is crazy. Maybe she is beaten by the devotees, but she meditates on you 24 hours a day. No matter how she meditates on you, no harm can ever befall her. Sir, how can I express my own feelings about it? Think what I was before and what I have become now by meditating on you. Formerly I was indolent. Now that indolence has turned into resignation to God. Formerly I was a sinner, and now I have become humble. What else can I say? The devotees remained silent. Rakal expressed his sympathy for Pagli. He said, "We all feel sorry for her. She causes so much annoyance, and for that she suffers too." Niranjan to Rakal, "You feel that way for her because you have a wife at home, but we could kill her." Fortunately, we've got Ramakrishna for an example here. Rakal sharply, "Such bragging! How dare you utter such words before Ramakrishna?" Master to Girish, "Lust and greed alone is the world. Many people regard money as their very lifeblood, but however you may show love for money, one day, perhaps every bit of it will slip from your hand. In our part of the country, the farmers make narrow ridges around their paddy fields. You know what those ridges are. Some farmers make ridges with great care all the way around their fields. Such ridges are destroyed by the rush of rainwater, but some farmers leave a part of the ridge open and put sod there. The water flows through the sod, leaving the field covered with silt after the rain. They reap a rich harvest. They alone make good use of their money who spend it for the worship of God or the service of holy men and devotees. Their money bears fruit. I cannot eat anything offered by physicians. I mean those who traffic in human suffering. Their money is blood and pus." Sri Ramakrishna mentioned two physicians in this connection. Girish, Dr. Rajendra Dutta is a generous person. He doesn't accept a penny from anybody. He gives away money in charity. It was the night of the full moon on Saturday, April 17th, 1886. For some time, Narendra had been going to Dakshineshwar daily. He spent a great deal of time in the Panchavati in meditation and contemplation. This day, he returned from Dakshineshwar in the evening. Tarak and Kali were with him. It was 8 o'clock in the evening. Moonlight and the south wind added to the charm of the garden house. Many of the devotees were meditating in the room downstairs. Referring to them, Narendra said to M, "They're shedding their upadhis one by one." A few minutes later, M came into Sri Ramakrishna's room and sat down on the floor. The master asked him to wash his towel and the spittoon. M washed them in the reservoir. The next morning, Sri Ramakrishna sent for M, asking after taking his bath in the Ganges and saluting the master, he had gone to the roof. Sri Ramakrishna asked M to bring his grief-stricken wife to the garden house where she could have her meal. The master said to M by a sign, "Ask her to come. Let her stay here a couple of days. She may bring the baby." M, "Yes, sir. It would be fine if she could develop intense love for God." Sri Ramakrishna again answered by signs, "Oh, grief pushes out devotion, and he has such a big boy." Krishna Kishore had 2 sons. They were the same age as Bhavanath, and each had 2 university degrees. They had both died. And Krishna Kishore, a jnani that he was, could not at first control himself. "How lucky I am that I have none." Arjuna was a great jnani, and Krishna was a constant companion. Nevertheless, he was completely overwhelmed with the grief at the death of his son Abhimanyu. "Why doesn't Kishori come?" A devotee, "He comes to the Ganges every day for his bath." Master, "But why doesn't he come here?" Devotee, "I'll ask him to come, sir." Master, "Why doesn't Harish come?" 2 young girls, 9 and 10, who belonged to M's family, sang several songs about the Divine Mother for the Master. They had sung for him when he had visited M's house at Shyampukur. The Master was very much pleased with their songs, and after they had finished, they were sent for by the devotees to sing for them downstairs. Master to M, "Don't teach the girls any more songs. It is different if they sing spontaneously, but they will lose their modesty by singing before anyone and everyone. It is very necessary for women to be modest." Flowers and sandal paste were placed before the Master in a flower basket. He sat on his bed and worshipped himself with these offerings. Sometimes he placed flowers and sandal paste on his head, sometimes on his throat, sometimes on his heart, and sometimes on his navel. Right, all worshipping at the different levels of consciousness there. Manu Mohan of Konagar came in and took a seat after saluting the Master. Sri Ramakrishna was still busy with the worship of his inner self. Wow, that's cool. The Master was busy with worship of his inner self. So that's why he's literally placing the flowers and the sandal paste at the different levels of consciousness. So he wasn't doing an external worship with a shrine and everything. He was using his own body and worshiping the deity within. I suppose you can do that when you've realized yourself as divine. Sri Ramakrishna was still busy with the worship of his inner self. He put a garland of flowers on his own neck. After a while, he seemed to be pleased with Manu Mohan and gave him some flowers. M too received a flower. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning. The Master and M were talking, and Sashi was also in the room. Master to M, "What were Narendra and Sashi talking about? What did they discuss?" M to Sashi, "Hey, what were you talking about?" Sashi, "Was it Niranjan that told you about it?" Master, "What were you discussing? I heard God, being, non-being, and so forth." Sashi smiling, "Shall I call Narendra?" Master, "Yes." Narendra came in and took a seat. The Master to M, "Ask him something." To Narendra, "Tell us, what were you talking about?" Narendra, I have indigestion. What's there to tell you about? Master, you'll get over your indigestion. M, smiling, tell us about the experience of Buddha. Narendra, I have become a Buddha. That you want to talk to me about him? Oh, have I become Buddha? Sorry about that. Have I become Buddha that you want to ask me about him? M, what does Buddha say about the existence of God? Narendra, how can you say that God exists? It is you who have created this universe. Don't you know what Berkeley says about it? M, yes, I do. According to him, esse is percepti. The existence of external objects depends on their perception. The world exists as long as the sense organs perceive it. Master, Nangta used to say the world exists in mind alone and disappears in mind alone. But as long as I consciousness exists, one should assume the servant and master relationship with God. Narendra to M, how can you prove by reasoning that God exists? But if you depend on faith, then you must accept the relationship of servant and master. And if you accept that, and you can't help it, then you must also say that God is kind. You think only of the suffering in the world. Why do you forget that God has also given you so much happiness? How kind He is to us. He has granted us 3 very great things: human birth, the yearning to know God, and the companionship of a great soul. All were silent. Master to Narendra, I feel very clearly that there is someone within me. Dr. Rajendra Lal arrived and took a seat. He had been treating the master with homeopathic medicine. When the talk about medicine was over, Sri Ramakrishna pointed out Manamahan to the doctor. Rajendra, he's a distant relative of mine. Narendra went downstairs, and he was singing to himself, Lord, you have lifted all my sorrow with the vision of your face, and the magic of your beauty has bewitched my mind. Beholding you, the 7 worlds forget their never-ending woe. What shall I say then of myself, a poor and lowly soul? Narendra did have a little indigestion. He said to M, if one follows the path of bhakti, the path of devotion, then the mind comes down a little to the body. Otherwise, who am I? Neither man nor God. I have neither pleasure nor pain. It was about 9 o'clock in the evening, and Surendra and a few other devotees entered Sri Ramakrishna's room. They offered him garlands of flowers. Babaram, Latu, and M were also in the room. Sri Ramakrishna put Surendra's garland on his own neck. All sat quietly. Suddenly, the master made a sign to Surendra to come near him. When the disciple came near the bed, Sri Ramakrishna took the garland from his neck and put it around Surendra's. Surendra saluted the master. The Sri Ramakrishna asked him by a sign to rub his feet, and Surendra gave him a gentle massage. Several devotees were sitting on the bank of the reservoir in the garden, singing to the accompaniment of drum and cymbals. Sri Ramakrishna sent them word through Latu to sing the name of Hari. M and Babaram and several others were still sitting in the master's room, and they heard the devotees singing, "There dances my Gora," chanting Hari's name. When the master heard the song, he made a sign to Babaram and M to join them. He also asked them to dance. A few minutes later, Sri Ramakrishna sent another devotee to the singers to ask them to sing the following improvised lines. "Ah, my Gora even knows how to dance. How can I describe my Gora's mood? My Gora dances with both hands upraised." The music was over. Surendra was almost in an ecstatic mood. He began to sing, "Crazy is my father, crazy is my mother, and I, their son, am crazy too. Shyama is my mother's name. My father strikes his cheeks and makes a hollow sound, ba-ba-boom, ba-ba-boom. And my mother, drunk and reeling, falls across my father's body. Shyama's streaming tresses hang in the vast disorder. Bees are swarming numberless about her crimson lotus feet. Listen as she dances, how her anklets sing." What a beautiful description of the universe. The utter insanity of it all. All right, we'll stop there for today. It'll be chapter 51 next week. And we'll be doing this class the rest of the Saturdays this month. So you can come to that. Tomorrow, Pravradrika Rajaprana is going to talk on practicing Vedanta. On Wednesdays, on the 11th and the 25th, we're studying the life of Swami Trigunatitananda, and Pravradrika Krishna Prana will be leading those classes. On the 15th, which is this coming, a week from this Sunday. No, it's this week from tomorrow, yes. Week from tomorrow is Shivaratri. It's from 6 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. And I really encourage you to come. It's very inconvenient.
12:30 a.m. Do not come at 12:30 a.m.
No, it starts at 6 p.m. and goes to 12:30 a.m.
No, it goes to about 11:30.
Oh, to 11:30. Okay. Mercy is upon us.
Yeah, right.
So no, it's just a very enjoyable thing. I encourage you to come because I often do not like to do these things and would sneak off to my bed early. And the times that I have managed not to slip off to my bed early, but to stay and to do the full program, I've always gotten such a beautiful, beautiful mood, a beautiful sense from that practice. And so if you're up for it, definitely make a go at it. So it's broken into 4 watches. The first one is 6 p.m., the second one 7:30 p.m., next one 8:45 p.m., and the next one 10 p.m. Nothing really to that, just information. And then on the 18th, we have Sri Ramakrishna's worship for his birthday, and that'll be at 11 a.m. There'll be 11 a.m. worship, and then the 12:45 Homa fire, and then prasad lunch after that. All right. So this place is your own for you to build a place for your spiritual practice. Jai Sri Ramakrishna, Jai Ma, Jai Swamiji.